Amazon Prime just did something no streaming platform has ever done before. And it's all because of the Summer I Turned Pretty cast drama that got so out of hand, they had to threaten to ban their own viewers. What I'm about to reveal will completely destroy how you see this show forever. We're talking about a political divide so intense that cast members literally refused to attend each other's weddings, leaked behind the scenes moments that expose which actors can't stand each other, and controversy so shocking that one cast member has been receiving actual death threats. Quick heads up. If you're about to dive into this mess with me, might as well hit subscribe because your FBI agent is already judging your YouTube history anyway, so what's one more drama channel, right? Let's get into the chaos that makes reality TV look peaceful. When The Summer I Turned Pretty premiered, nobody expected it to become the cultural phenomenon it did. Jenny Han's book series had a devoted following, sure, but the Amazon Prime adaptation didn't just gain viewers. It created literal armies of obsessed fans. Team Conrad versus Team Jeremiah wars erupted across every social media platform imaginable, with people analyzing every single glance, every piece of dialogue, every Instagram story for clues about who Belly would ultimately choose. The show's success was absolutely astronomical. Season 1 shattered viewing records for Amazon Prime, and by Season 2, the cast couldn't step outside without being mobbed by screaming teenagers. Social media followers jumped into the millions practically overnight. Magazine covers, brand partnerships, award nominations. This was the kind of success that launches careers and changes lives forever. Lola Tung, Christopher Briney, and Gavin Casaleggio went from unknown actors to household names almost instantly. But here's where things get interesting. With that level of fame comes pressure that most people can't even imagine. And apparently, it also revealed some seriously uncomfortable truths about who these people really are when the cameras aren't rolling. The first major red flag that something was seriously wrong came when Amazon Prime took a step that literally no streaming platform had ever taken before. They issued a warning to fans that was so unprecedented it made headlines across every major entertainment outlet. The message started friendly enough. Cousins is our safe place. Everything good, everything magical. Let's keep the conversation kind this summer. But then it got deadly serious. They implemented a zero-tolerance policy for hate speech, bullying, harassment, and doxing, with the threat of permanent bans from the platform. Think about that for a second. When has a major streaming service ever had to basically threaten to kick paying customers off their platform because of how they were talking about a teen romance show? This wasn't normal fan enthusiasm they were dealing with. This was something much darker, much more personal, and much more disturbing. Industry insiders immediately started whispering about why Amazon felt the need to step in so aggressively. Sources close to the production began revealing that the cast had been receiving an unusual amount of targeted harassment. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just coming from random internet trolls. The harassment was coming from within different factions of their own fan base. And it was getting deeply, disturbingly personal. The situation had gotten so bad that Gavin Casaleggio, who plays Jeremiah Fisher, was actually receiving death threats. Let me repeat that. Death threats over a fictional love triangle on a teen drama. Fans had apparently started connecting dots between the actors' real-life political views and their on-screen chemistry, and the results were absolutely explosive. But the most telling sign that something was fundamentally broken within this cast came from what should have been a joyful celebration that brought everyone together. Gavin Casaleggio got married during the break between seasons to his girlfriend Cheyenne King, which should have been a beautiful moment shared with his TV family. Instead, it became the event that exposed just how fractured this cast really was. Not a single cast member attended the wedding. Not Christopher Briney, Not Lola Tung, not Sean Kaufman, who plays Belly's brother Steven, not even Jenny Han herself, the creator and executive producer of the entire show. Now, actors missing a coworker's wedding isn't automatically scandalous. People have scheduling conflicts, other commitments, personal reasons for not attending major events. But when literally every single person from your work family skips your wedding, and then fans start posting side-by-side comparisons with other TV show casts who treat each other like actual family, it starts painting a very different picture. The internet detectives went absolutely insane with this discovery. They pulled up photos from other young adult show weddings where entire casts showed up to support each other. The Outer Banks cast regularly appears at each other's major life events. Stranger Things actors treat each other like siblings. Even reality TV stars typically rally around their co-stars' weddings and celebrations. But the Summer I Turned Pretty cast? Complete radio silence. No Instagram stories congratulating the couple, no behind-the-scenes photos from a wedding reception, no cute posts about celebrating their TV brother. It was like Gavin's wedding didn't even exist to them. The evidence became absolutely impossible to ignore during the Season 3 press tour. Fans started noticing that something was seriously off about the group dynamic. And these weren't the usual awkward moments you might expect from young actors still learning how to handle media attention. This was something much more uncomfortable and obvious to watch. The moment that really opened everyone's eyes happened during a lie detector interview that was supposed to be fun and lighthearted. When Lola Tung was asked directly if she thought she and Gavin would have been friends in high school, her response was so diplomatically brutal that it immediately went viral for all the wrong reasons. I think we would have been like, hey, in the hallway, yeah, but like different interests, different classes, different majors. The body language experts on TikTok had an absolute field day with this clip. They pointed out how Lola's entire posture shifted when talking about Gavin. The way she looked literally everywhere except at him during her answer. How she chose her words so carefully that it was obvious she was trying desperately not to say what she really felt. The pause before she answered spoke volumes. The forced smile that never quite reached her eyes. The diplomatic language that somehow managed to be more cutting than any direct insult could have been. Everything about that moment screamed polite tolerance rather than genuine friendship, and fans immediately knew they were witnessing something significant. But it wasn't just Lola showing this behavior. Christopher Briney's interactions with Gavin during press events started getting scrutinized frame by obsessed fans. They noticed how Chris would literally turn his body away from Gavin during group interviews, how he'd engage enthusiastically with Sean Kaufman and Lola, cracking jokes and sharing genuine moments of laughter and connection. But the energy would completely shift the moment Gavin tried to join any conversation. The most damning evidence came from what fans started calling the isolation photos. At various Season 3 premiere events, where the cast was supposed to be celebrating together and watching trailers for the first time, multiple fan accounts posted photos that showed the group dynamics with devastating clarity. Chris and Sean were practically joined at the hip, laughing and whispering to each other like genuine friends. Lola was arm in arm with other female cast members, looking completely comfortable and natural in her relationships. And then there was Gavin, standing slightly apart from everyone else in nearly every single photo, trying to look like he belonged, but clearly not included in any of the intimate conversations or genuine bonding moments happening around him. Speaking of shocking revelations, if you want to stay in the loop on all the Hollywood drama that makes your favorite shows even more interesting, smash that subscribe button. We're about to dive into the political controversy that explains everything. The reason for all this obvious tension finally started making sense when dedicated fans dug deeper into Gavin Casalegno's social media activity. What they discovered was a pattern of behavior that directly contradicted the values of a show created by a woman, starring a strong female protagonist, and beloved by a predominantly young, progressive fan base. The controversy exploded when eagle-eyed fans discovered that Gavin had liked a post that read, "When you find out she's unvaccinated, not a feminist, loves the Lord, and aspires to be a wife, mother, and homemaker." The post featured a meme of Joe Rogan looking enthusiastic, and it was shared by an account called Masculine Revival. For fans of a show that's literally about female empowerment and a young woman choosing her own path in life, this felt like a direct slap in the face to everything the series represented. But that discovery was just the tip of an absolutely massive iceberg. Deeper investigation by fans revealed that Gavin was following some seriously controversial figures on social media. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican congresswoman known for spreading conspiracy theories and making inflammatory statements. Libs of TikTok, an account that specifically targets and harasses LGBTQ+ individuals and educators. And perhaps most shocking of all, Andrew Tate, the infamous influencer who's been banned from multiple platforms for his openly misogynistic views and controversial statements about women. The pattern became absolutely impossible to ignore when fans discovered even more problematic content that Gavin had engaged with over time. Anti-vaccination posts during the height of the pandemic, content during international conflicts that many found tone-deaf and insensitive, and videos containing transphobic remarks that directly contradicted the inclusive values that the Summer I Turned Pretty supposedly championed. Each new discovery felt like another confirmation that Gavin's personal beliefs were fundamentally at odds with everything the show stood for. And when the backlash started gaining serious momentum across social media platforms, Gavin tried to do damage control in the most unconvincing way possible. He claimed that someone else had access to his Instagram account and was liking posts without his knowledge. He said he didn't even have the Instagram app on his phone most days, and thanked fans for bringing these issues to his attention. But the explanation fell completely flat for several obvious reasons. First, the pattern of problematic activity was way too consistent and too specifically aligned with his apparent personal interests to be random. Second, this wasn't just one or two accidental likes that could be explained away. This was an extensive history of engaging with controversial content that spanned many months and showed clear ideological consistency. And third, his explanation conveniently came only after he got caught and called out publicly, not as any kind of proactive clarification or apology. The political divide within the cast became even more obvious when you looked at who was supporting what causes publicly on their own social media accounts. Christopher Briney's Instagram showed consistent support for progressive causes, environmental activism, and social justice issues that resonated with young audiences. Lola Tung regularly shared content supporting women's rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and inclusive representation in media. Sean Kaufman's social media activity aligns perfectly with typical Gen Z liberal values and causes. And then there was Gavin, apparently supporting figures and ideologies that were diametrically opposed to his co-stars' very public positions on major issues. Industry insiders started talking about how this political divide was affecting the workplace atmosphere in ways that went far beyond simple professional disagreements about policy. Sources close to the production revealed that the tension wasn't just about having different political opinions, which happens in every workplace. It was about fundamental differences in core values that made it genuinely difficult for the cast to connect on any kind of personal level. When you're spending months filming together in close quarters, living near each other, and expected to create believable romantic and familial chemistry on screen, having such vastly different worldviews about basic human rights and dignity can create some serious problems. The situation became even more complicated when fans started connecting the dots between the actors' personal relationships and their actual on-screen performances in ways that affected how people watched the show. Team Conrad fans began claiming that Chris and Lola's obvious real-life friendship and shared values translated to much better chemistry in their romantic scenes together. Meanwhile, Team Jeremiah supporters felt that Gavin's apparent isolation from the rest of the group was actually affecting his ability to sell the central love triangle effectively. Behind-the-scenes sources started sharing more specific details about how these tensions actually played out during the long months of filming. Apparently, the cast had naturally split into completely different social groups during their downtime between shoots. Chris, Sean, and Lola would often hang out together, going to dinners, exploring the filming locations in North Carolina, and genuinely enjoying each other's company like actual friends. Gavin, meanwhile, was much more likely to keep to himself or spend his free time with crew members and local friends he'd made in the area. The social division wasn't just noticeable to people paying attention, it was becoming a legitimate issue for the show's promotional efforts and marketing campaigns. As the actors began booking their next big projects and career opportunities, Christopher Briney landed significant roles in major studio productions and had several other high-profile opportunities lined up before the show even ended. Lola Tung was being actively courted for major studio projects and lucrative fashion brand partnerships. Sean Kaufman was successfully building a strong social media presence and exploring opportunities in music and other creative ventures. But Gavin's post-Summer I Turned Pretty opportunities seemed notably fewer and significantly less prominent than his co-stars. Industry experts weren't particularly surprised by this development. Hollywood, especially the young adult entertainment sector that focuses on teenage audiences, tends to be quite liberal and socially conscious in its hiring and partnership decisions. When an actor becomes publicly associated with controversial political views, especially ones that could potentially alienate key demographics and advertising partners, it can have a major impact on their future career trajectory. The fact that Gavin had also mentioned in various interviews that acting wasn't necessarily his long-term priority or passion didn't help his cause with casting directors and producers who were looking for committed, uncontroversial talent to build franchises around. The fan reaction to all this unfolding drama was absolutely intense and completely divided the show's audience. Social media became a legitimate battlefield where different factions of the fandom argued about everything from the actors' fundamental right to hold their political opinions to whether their personal beliefs should affect how people view and enjoy their fictional characters. TikTok was completely flooded with videos analyzing every single interaction between cast members, every interview moment, every social media post for additional evidence of tension and conflict. Some fans passionately defended Gavin's right to his personal beliefs, arguing that political differences shouldn't automatically destroy professional relationships and work environments. Others felt completely betrayed and said they literally couldn't separate his real-life views from his character anymore, which ruined their enjoyment of the show. The most vocal group insisted that the other cast members were completely justified in distancing themselves from someone whose publicly expressed values contradicted everything the show was supposed to stand for and represent. The creators and producers found themselves in an absolutely impossible situation with no good options. Jenny Han had built her entire career on writing empowering stories for young women, and her television adaptation had become a powerful symbol of female agency, choice, and independence. Having one of her male lead actors publicly associated with content that seemed to directly oppose these values created a public relations nightmare that no amount of careful messaging or damage control could completely resolve. As filming wrapped on what would be the final season, the professional requirements meant the cast still had to continue promoting the show together despite their obvious personal differences and tensions. But every single joint appearance became an exercise in careful choreography and management. Publicists worked overtime to structure group interviews in ways that avoided potentially explosive topics and ensured that the actors' interactions remained at least superficially pleasant for cameras. The most telling moment came during the final press conference, when a reporter asked the simple question about their favorite memories from filming the entire series together. This question should have been incredibly easy for a genuinely close-knit cast to answer with warmth, specific anecdotes, and obvious affection for each other. Instead, there were long, uncomfortable pauses, generic responses about the beautiful filming location, and working with talented people, and a general sense that everyone was choosing their words extremely carefully to avoid saying anything revealing. What makes this entire situation so fascinating from a cultural perspective is how it perfectly mirrors the central themes of the show itself. The Summer I Turned Pretty is fundamentally about growing up, discovering who you really are underneath social expectations, and learning that sometimes people change and grow in ways that make certain relationships impossible to maintain. The fact that the real-life cast experienced their own version of this coming-of-age disillusionment and personal growth adds an almost metatextual layer to the whole drama. It's like life imitating art in the most uncomfortable and revealing way possible, where the actors had to learn the same lessons their characters did about how shared experiences don't always create lasting bonds. The legacy of this unprecedented controversy will likely outlast the show itself and influence the entertainment industry for years to come. Future casting directors will definitely remember how political differences and personal values conflicts can completely torpedo a production's promotional efforts and audience reception. Young actors entering the industry will learn hard lessons about social media awareness and how their personal beliefs and online activity can significantly impact their professional opportunities and relationships. And fans will forever associate The Summer I Turned Pretty not just with its romantic storylines and beach house aesthetics, but with the real-life drama that proved sometimes the most interesting and revealing conflicts happen when the cameras stop rolling and people show who they really are. Before we wrap up this deep dive into Hollywood chaos, if you enjoyed getting the real tea on what happens behind the scenes of your favorite shows, definitely subscribe, because I promise there's always more mess brewing in Tinseltown than what makes it to your screen. As the final season has aired and this chapter of these actors' careers comes to a close, one thing is absolutely certain. The Summer I Turned Pretty cast will be remembered as much for what happened behind the cameras and in their personal lives as for the romantic storylines that played out on screen. Whether this serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing personal politics with entertainment careers, or simply a reminder that actors are complex human beings with their own beliefs and flaws, is ultimately up to each viewer to decide. But one thing we can say for certain is that this level of documented tension and ideological conflict between co-stars is genuinely rare in the entertainment industry. The way it all played out so publicly gives us a fascinating and somewhat disturbing glimpse into how personal beliefs, professional obligations, and fan expectations can create the perfect storm for Hollywood drama that rivals any scripted storyline. Sometimes reality truly is stranger and more dramatic than fiction, and in the case of The Summer I Turned Pretty, the real story behind the cameras turned out to be just as compelling and controversial as anything that happened in the fictional world of Cousins Beach. The question moving forward is whether this kind of intense political divide will become more common in Hollywood productions as social media makes everyone's personal views more visible, or if this was just a perfect storm of circumstances that created an unusually toxic and unsustainable situation. Only time will tell, but one thing is absolutely certain. Fans will never look at those beautiful sunset beach scenes and romantic summer moments the same way again, knowing what was really happening between the people creating them.